With or without Donald Trump's help, Kim Jong-un could easily plunge the planet into its third world war inside a century. Of course, this one would be vastly more destructive than the Great War, where even the use of aircraft was in its infancy, though sadly not chemical weapons, or World War II, which ended with the first and so far only use of nuclear weapons in war. To date, Donald Trump has played a strong hand. He has installed anti-missile defenses against the North inside South Korea. He is doing, more or less, what President Kennedy did in the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, and what President Reagan did in the Cold War in the 1980s, practicing brinkmanship, demonstrating strength, displaying resolve. The South Koreans are having elections now, and their new government, after 9 May, may not be as resolute as its predecessor and the Trump administration. Yet while Pyongyang has the capacity to raise Seoul to the ground, even without nuclear weaponry, they may not protest too loudly. Like Kennedy and Reagan, Trump could prevail. Yet it is not tricky to see how things could spin out of control. Feeling abandoned and exposed, Kim could loose off a few missiles of his own, maybe towards Japan, always a popular target. True to recent form in Afghanistan, the Mob job, and Syria, President Trump could retaliate with a surgical and proportionate strike on some North Korean facility. Then what? North Korea sinks a South Korean warship. There are skirmishes on the ground. Some North Koreans manage to get themselves shot to ribbons. He chucks another missile over the border and it kills American troops. Trump escalates to bombing, conventionally, government buildings and those absurd statues of Kim's dad and granddad. Kim sees his regime lethally threatened. He now sees no alternative, nothing to lose. A rat cornered, he unleashes his huge conventional forces, supported by Chinese and Russian diplomacy, hoping to get the Americans to back off and leave him in power. Tanks overwhelm the DMZ, American troops are massacred. The US is drawn in. China is faced with gigantic floods of refugees and refuses to permit American troops beyond a certain point near its border. What happens if Japanese, Australian, NATO and other troops fight to defend South Korea? What would Vladimir Putin do? The Second Korean War will have begun, with the Third World War not far behind, the long-delayed playing out of the last legacies of the Second World War and the Cold War. There's no shortage of ammo. In that corner of the world meet the planet's biggest and most powerful military forces. The US, preeminently, but also Russia, so far content to be more of an observer than a player for now, but another nuclear power. It has long since dropped away from being the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's ideological mentor and economic support, dating from when Khrushchev denounced Stalinism, when Mao did not, Pyongyang never looked back. Still, it has a land border with North Korea. The third nuclear power and the DPRK's more recent communist friend, China, is more intimately concerned. Taking Donald Trump at his word, it is worried enough to publicly chastise North Korea and push for harsher sanctions. There is South Korea too, rapidly growing its armed forces, and of course North Korea, with a vast army and whatever nuclear and missile technology it has been able to develop. Japan too, though technically limited to self-defense, has substantial armed forces. It would not take this advanced rich power long to develop nuclear technology if the need arose. In the whole of human history there has never been a bigger powder cake, nor men so strange playing with a box of matches near to it. The major players, even North Korea, have much to lose in all this. And yet the situation, with its threats and escalations, its mobilizations and skirmishes, its rhetorical gestures and misunderstandings, resembles nothing so much as the Balkans in the volatile months and years leading up to 1914. We've even had the assassination of a near heir to a throne, albeit this time Kim Jong-un's brother, Kim Jong-nam, rather than Archduke Franz Ferdinand. No one should draw the parallels too closely. But if Donald Trump has been compared to Kaiser Wilhelm II, proud, unpredictable, outspoken and gripped by an inferiority complex, then Kim has no simple parallels in the Edwardian era. That's not good. Watching the fairly calm currency and stock markets and the orderly proceedings of the United Nations, it is plain that, as in 1914, the world has not woken up to what is happening in a perplexing region where the background noise of perpetual crisis is so loud and has been going on for so long that we've simply learned to ignore it. President Trump has shown that he is not ignoring it, but he has no good choices. Let us hope he is a skillful brinkman.